Welcome to the channel. Here is where we cut through the noise and jump straight into what drives business growth. My name is Daniel Shepherd. I'm a UK entrepreneur, and this is where I share the lessons, the strategies, and the real-world experiences of growing and scaling multiple companies generating over $10 million every single year. I share the wins, the setbacks, the practical steps that you can swipe and deploy into your own journey. So if you're ambitious and you want sharper business thinking and ready to turn knowledge into results, then this is the right place for you. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and let's dive straight in. Hey guys, I'm in Dubai, and it's a wonderful place to be, gorgeous, but it's a little devil's advocate for me because it makes me want to work harder, it makes me want to drive the business further than it's ever possible to achieve something bigger and better. So it's a very exciting time for me personally. For those that don't know, I actually run the companies completely remote. I have a senior leadership team in the UK, brilliant team in all fairness. But I've learned since working completely remote now for the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years, is that the environment is so important to the mindset of an entrepreneur and investor. And I can't say that there's much better of an entrepreneur and investor environment as Dubai. Everywhere you look, it's just lavished, money, success, scale, everything you can imagine. It's just possible here in Dubai. So I think I want to live here. And today I'm going to make a step towards that possible by looking to see what opportunities there is to set up a business here in Dubai. I'm meeting somebody who specializes in all things business setup. It's not quite as straightforward as in the UK, so I need to learn a little bit more about what has Dubai got to offer, the differences in between the mainland, free zones, etc. But without going into that, as I'm no expert, what you all will be interested in is the next point that I'm going to make, and that is I need to dial it up on the M&A. I really want to set up private equity. I want a little team. And for those that don't know, I've done 2 deals in the past 3 years. They've been they've been successful. One was for about £1.5 million, and the other was for about £500,000. And they were both done very differently in structure, size, scale. And I'll just jump into what that is now. So these are the thoughts based on the 2 acquisitions that I completed over the course of time. And these are the biggest challenges and solutions that I've found to be the biggest lessons from these particular deals. First lesson was the deal structure in itself. So the first deal was for 1.5 million in turnover. However, it was loss-making and had £500,000 worth of liabilities, which was a real risk to any new acquirer. I reached out to this company in the same format that you'll see throughout this video of how I approach businesses to acquire them. And we had to negotiate a deal structure that mitigated the risk for myself as the acquirer, but also give the previous owner a real exit. So in simplicity terms, I was able to negotiate a gift of equity because essentially it wasn't worth anything. And I was really focused on turning the company around in terms of its operation and profitability to pay for itself and pay for the exit of the previous owner. I was able to have the liabilities linked with the equity and with the previous owner's payment. So for every percentage of reduced liability that we were able to achieve, I would get a percentage of equity and the owner would get a percentage of his payment that we agreed in terms of the balance sheet payment that we came to agree. And the second point I really learned from this deal was cash flow. So it was in a cash negative status. And for those that don't know, cash really has the means to kill businesses. Keeping the cash flow in really keeps the business growing. And I go into more depth about all things cash flow on another video, so be sure to check that out. However, I implemented a series of tactical and really easy to do steps that generated a positive cash flow cycle that helped turn around this business and enjoy its own cash organically without the additional liabilities attached to third-party lending. The final lesson learned on this particular deal was team. The team around me at the time of executing this type of deal was so important, or therefore the lack of it became really apparent. Now, this company meant we had to implement a brand new management team that was focused on compliance, new ways of working, and change management, and it really helped turn the business around. I go into far more detail on another video, all things team and culture building, so be sure to check it out. My next deal was then a real simple execution. It was all done via an asset purchase agreement, and it was for a £500,000 revenue company, but they had about £250,000 worth of assets, plant and equipment, goodwill, and other associated means that I was able to see value in. There was no employees that had to come across. We absorbed the revenue and the plant equipment into our current operation, which made this transaction one of the easiest ones I've ever done. So the first lesson was the speed and the communication from negotiation to execution and signing on that dotted line. It all took place within a matter of 14 days. That was so that we were able to move fast, and we give the seller the confidence that we were able to move and absorb the goodwill, the plant and equipment relatively easy in terms of our current operation. The second lesson then was communication in regards to our clients and new clients that were coming on board. We had a really good team at this point to get out in the field and meet every single client to absorb them into our current operation. And then our final lesson, which is all about funding. In this particular example, we were able to structure a simple organic means in order to pay for the plant and equipment and the goodwill and associated negotiated figure, but it didn't have to be that way, and we could have certainly leveraged. It was more of an informed decision as to why we did that, and fortunate to be in a position in order to do it. Okay, I am late. I've got a meeting with a business specialist to set up a business here in Dubai, and I'm just entrusting that it all goes to plan, and he tells me some good news of what's involved. It's not going to be too tricky. I've been told that the UAE is trying to make things easier, not harder, so I'll just give you a bit of a download thereafter. See you at the next stop. Okay, so just had a meeting with Gareth, who's a business expert setting up companies here in the UAE. Actually Welsh, funny enough, so we had a lot in common. And it was really interesting to understand the differences here and what that means for me personally and the UK companies, and how the relationship of efficiencies will take place, and obviously some hopefully advantages by operating here in the UAE. First standout is the difference between mainland and free zone. So with that in mind, the free zone has the ability for an international trading agreement, and is not specifically here for the local market. Mainland is there for the domestic market here within the UAE and subject to VAT. Both would have challenges in respect of bank account setup, which is a bit of a surprise to me. Typically in the UK, you have a really easy, slick process. You can simply go and set up a company via HMRC. It costs £30 to £40 online. Within 24 hours, you're pretty much set to go with a company registered number. You then have the means to go to a bank to open a bank account, and again, within pretty much 24 to 72 hours, you'll be set with a business bank account. Now, here in the UAE, it's very different. It sounds like you need to have your hand held through the entire process. He described having 1.5 kilograms worth of paper and documents in order to set up a company and then go to the bank. What was really interesting is how he described the relationship between the different governing bodies. So you have the free zone regulatory, I'm describing it as regulators. You then have obviously the government, and then you have the banks. Now the banks operate to international standards, therefore they're not just considering local market requirements. And depending on which bank account you choose will depend on what requirements they have for you setting up a company here in the UAE. So we fleshed out the costs that were attached. So visa requirements for family, a family visa would be about 6,500 dirham. And then setting up a company and bank account here for me would cost anywhere between 25 to 30,000 dirham plus an extra 12 for the bank account. So on top of that, every year, it's slightly different compared to the UK, but every year we would end up having to renew the license. It's lower cost than the initial setup, but it was really, well, just surprising. You know, they say that UAE is, you know, tax-free, so to speak, but there are additional taxes just disguised as costs. So I'm sure there's a net benefit, and it's something that I really want to pursue, and I can see that the efficiencies that will be gained by having that international relationship is to be materialized. So next step will be to consider both timings and have a chat with my darling wife to see about when we believe we can make it happen. So it's very interesting. Catch you in the next one.